My first question is, how come we never got that secret storytelling anywhere in the workshop? There are no knocks in my story. Not yet. Next time. I was a spunky, sparkly, fiery, full of mystery and intuition little girl. Being raised by a father whose mantra in life is, what will people think? People will know you. Behave. This he has even said to me in foreign countries. And a mother who liked to move a lot. I was blessed with devout Catholic and yet very loving grandparents. My grandmother's saying was, you'll be over it before you marry twice. In her world, you would never be married twice. And I'm convinced even if he died, you weren't supposed to get married again. And so you had your entire life to get over something. I've been married twice. This is not always true that you'll be over it. Being intuitive, being spunky as a child, when you get into grade school, can get translated into being weird, into being different. And I know this when people say those things like, are you sure it's true? Are you very sure it's true? My mother loved to move. I was in 6th grade schools by the time I was in 6th grade, so I had a lot of different classrooms to experiment in. Yeah, it's true. So 6th grade came around, and I had been in the same classroom with the kids since 5th grade, which was practically a miracle for me. And I got tired of being different. I didn't want to be that kid anymore. And despite all past experiences, I decided that my friends were the problem. That Francis and Adrian, who very generously befriended me as soon as I walked in the door in 5th grade, who really were each other's only friends, I dropped them. I dropped them, and I went after the popular crowd. I had easy access. I had every class with Jill Barkey. And I worked it. And by the end of the year, I was friends with them. I was hanging out with Tony and Kimby and Lisa and Jill. Their names were even more popular than Francis and Adrian. And I thought, I made it. You know, I did it. I have washed the stain of weird girl off. I am in the popular crowd. Or so I thought. Until 8th grade ended. And the superlatives come around, you know, best allies, most popular. I got voted most unusual. I don't even know what teacher approved most unusual in 8th grade. I mean, I am convinced that unless you were that child who was actually gunning for that, nobody wants to go in 8th grade. And I had really been trying to go in the opposite direction. And so I was devastated. And I was crying. And my mom said, one day you'll be proud that you got it. And then she pulled out grandma's, you'll be over it before you marry twice. And this gave me, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. That's a ways off, but, you know, it's summer, and I've got things to do, so I dried my tears, I went on. A few years later, I was told that I was special again in a far more mysterious way. My parents had divorced, and my mother and I were traveling up to see my grandmother for Christmas. We were taking an overnight train up to Washington. It was dark, and the lights of the towns were flickering by. We decided to go to the club car and play cards. And we were sitting in the booths. We were sitting on the same side when a couple approached and asked my mother if they could speak to me. They talked to me for about 20 minutes about intuition and mystery and things that I don't entirely recall the details of. And then the woman turned to my mother and said, "You know she has the gift." And my mom nodded, and this conversation continued. At one point, I felt hesitant because my mother wasn't able to participate in what we were talking about. And the woman leaned over and put her hand on my hand and said, "You're going to have to be okay with going beyond that. That a child moves beyond her parents and knows more and will know more than they ever know." And my mother, again, just nodded at me. I would like to say that at that moment, I embraced this gift and moved on with being special. But that really wouldn't be the hero's journey. That would be the easy way. I spent 16 more years caring far more about what you all thought and what you wanted than what was true for me. I didn't even really know what was true for me. It didn't really matter. I had likes and dislikes. I've always been opinionated. But in terms of my core, you controlled that. And it culminated when I was 30 and I decided that it was time to find the right person. I don't have to follow my dad. And everyone tells you, write a list. Write a list and write down exactly what you want and ask the universe. So I wrote a list, including very intelligent qualities like again, it was another life. And I put it out to the universe. And what I didn't do was say, "Goddess, thy will be done," or this or something better, or any of the other things that really, when you're trying to manifest, from my experience, the way to go. And the universe produced that man, down to this detail. I had been watching Mad About You, and you know how the guy's name is Paul, and they have this great interaction, and I wrote, "He'll be my Paul." And the man showed up, and his name was Paul. So when I say he was the list, he was the list. And I was ready to sign that contract in blood on day 5. You're it. This is it. This is exactly what I wanted. Your safety. You look good. You have everything. You're the list. And so we got into a relationship, and the relationship was a beautiful box. A beautiful box filled with many, many pretty images, like his parents had a house on Martha's Vineyard, you know, and there were things about it that I really loved. There were a lot of things about it I really loved. And there was the box of the rules about how we lived, how we would live. And I was willing at that moment to trade my mystery and my spark for that box, because I didn't know the mystery of myself well enough to see that I was trading something away, that I was giving something to value up. I just saw the value that was visible. And although I had an inkling that there was something wrong, there was one point I was standing in the kitchen and I said, this is not a joke, I actually stood there and said, I didn't say that. Goddess, I know this isn't where you want me to be, and I don't care, because this is my life. Let me tell you another thing. Not recommended. You know, if you do want to do that, talk to me later. I would say, you know, but if you want to move me from here, do it gently. There are things you can do. But I full-on challenged. And a couple of months later, the universe showed me that she knows what's best for me. And he dropped the box. And those pretty images were shattered into little teeny tiny pieces. And I was shattered into little teeny tiny pieces. Imagine being in the coldest, darkest room, and there's no windows and no doors. And every once in a while, you can take a shallow kind of half breath. And you don't even really have the will to get